Hurd, buy some dip cones and some blizzards and some belt busters. You know, this is, what day are we on, Tony? Yeah, this is day four of a 6-day road trip. We're making 25 stops. Most of them are at Dairy Queen. And I'm glad that Dairy Queen has a Blizzard Mini now, because I wouldn't be able to fit my jeans by the end of this trip. A lot of people ask me, why Dairy Queens? It's like, well, there's one in every county pretty much. And also, DC to DQ is a pretty catchy hashtag. And look, it's always great being out here. I was here, 10 days ago, Carmen, at Lake Amistad, and understanding the relationships and the role the federal government, the city, the county can have in improving that resource. One of the reasons, y'all know my story. I'm from San Antonio, born and raised. Went to Texas A&M University, whoop, Big Aggies, where I got a degree in computer science. I had the awesome opportunity of serving as the student body president for Texas A&M. And during the bonfire collapse, which is one of the darkest moments in our history, I'm one of the few Aggies that doesn't refer to University of Texas as TU. And part of it is because what University of Texas did in response in that horrific tragedy. When I graduated from A&M, I went straight into the CIA. I was the guy in the back alleys at 4 o'clock in the morning collecting intelligence on threats to the homeland. Yeah, no, thank you. I did 2 years in Washington, mostly in training, and what I used to call the super secret CIA training facility called the Farm, but now it's on Google Maps. Then I did 2 years in India, 2 years in Pakistan, 2 years in New York City, and then a year and a half in Afghanistan running all of our undercover operations. I'm going to stand up here a little bit closer so people can get behind me and order some food. And in addition to collecting intelligence on threats to the homeland, I also had to brief members of Congress. And I was pretty shocked by the caliber of our elected officials. And my mama said, you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And so I decided to run for Congress. I moved from Kabul, Afghanistan to Helotes, Texas. Growing up in Leon Valley, there's 2 places I never thought I'd live: Afghanistan and Helotes. Right? But it's great being in that community. It's great representing that community. And when I ran the first time, I lost. I lost an election by 700 votes. Not a lot of votes. I don't have to tell that story anymore. But to be honest, at the time I wasn't thankful, but now I am, because it gave me the opportunity to get involved more deeply in the private sector. I became a partner in a consulting firm, helped companies grow in markets they had never been before. I also helped start a cybersecurity company from scratch. So learning what it was like to start a company flat-footed. You know, and the 2 guys or the 2 gals in the garage, the first thing they shouldn't have to worry about is the cumbersome tax code. They should be worrying about how you build a better widget, how do you provide a better service, how do you hire the best people, and not worried about this complicated, arcane tax code. We got to make sure the federal government doesn't get in the way of all small businesses and our entrepreneurs. Because guess what? Small businesses is the lifeblood of our communities. It's the lifeblood of our state. And we should be doing everything to make sure that they can grow and prosper. And so having that experience was great in helping me provide support to communities since I've been in Congress. 2014, the opportunity came to run. I took it. This time we won. I'm on the Homeland Security. Yeah, we can clap to that. I sit on the Homeland Security Committee, and I chair a subcommittee on information technology. And you know, the district is huge. Y'all know it. It's from San Antonio to El Paso down to Eagle Pass. 29 counties, 2 time zones, 820 miles of the border. It takes 10.5 hours to drive from one corner to the other at 80 miles an hour, which is actually the speed limit in about 75% of the district. And I think my staff realized recently that it's not 80 miles an hour in all of Texas. The hard way, yeah. And look, when I ran for Congress, I had two reasons for doing that. To be a leader on national security and the gold standard when it comes to constituent relations. Okay? And a lot of the work that we do is making sure we're fighting the bureaucracy that people that need it fought, right? Medicare, Social Security, VA benefits, working with the federal government, at Lake Amistad, right? And so that's one of the things that I'm proud of. And look, I have the opportunity of having my name on the door and my face on the sign, but it's a large group of people that are providing services for y'all, and I want to introduce a few of them. And I'm going to start first with someone y'all all know, needs no introduction, Carmen. Carmen has been an amazing advocate for y'all. She's been a helpful resource to me. She cares about this district. She cares about getting things done, and it's great having her on the team. For y'all that don't know, she runs our office here, and she deals with constituents in the southern part of our district. We have Stony Burke, my chief of staff, not the famous cowboy. Stony Burke is an Aggie from West Texas. Grew up on a vegetable farm. I've known him since he was 14 years old. He ruined my life by suggesting I run for Congress. And I ruined his life by making him my chief of staff. Tyler Lowe, standing next to him. Yeah, Tyler is one of the newest additions to the team. And he is one of the folks, he's an Aggie as well, we have a few. He spent a year and a half as the counsel for the Homeland Security Committee. And that's important for this district, right? 820 miles of the border. His experience is going to be influential in dealing with some of the projects that we have in this district. Who else do we have? Jenny Suarez. Jenny is from Fort Stockton. Jenny is from Fort Stockton. She is our field rep based in San Antonio. She crisscrosses this district, went to school, did some time at St. Ross, and graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. We have a few Longhorns too. Henry Hubera. Henry has been with us since almost day one. He is the guy that is fighting the bureaucracy when it comes to Social Security, Medicare. He's dogged, he's persistent, he cares about this community, and it's great having Henry on board. And then last but not least is John Arnold. I'll let you guess where he graduated from. 9.5-year Army veteran. Did a lot of time overseas. Spent a lot of time dealing with the VA, and he's on our staff to work on VA veterans issues and military issues. One of the things that I'm proud of is last year alone we closed out 242 veterans cases. These are veterans that have some problems, right? And we're on track to hit that number. A lot of that is because of his hard work. And here's the reality. Congress has funded the VA at the highest levels it's ever been funded. So we still have problems. We still have problems of process. We still have problems of making sure that it's easy for our veterans to get care. Many of our veterans that are far away have to drive long hours in order to get some basic services. There's a program I want to talk about, hopefully y'all know about, called the Choice Card. It's not perfect. When it first rolled out a year and a half ago, there were a ton of problems. But what the Choice Card is, and if you don't know about it, you got to learn more about it. If you have veterans as friends or family, you got to make sure they know about it. If your appointment is more than 30 days away, you can go on the local economy in order to get health care provided, if that provider is part of the network. If you're more than 40 miles away from a VA facility, you can use a local facility if they're part of the network. Now, when this first got started, the private healthcare providers that were participating, they weren't getting paid by the VA on time, which a lot of folks weren't going to participate because they couldn't manage their businesses that way. Tri-West, which is a company that administers this program, started out with 200 people. Now they have 3,000 people to administer this program. You know, this is an important program, and guess what? Another thing we're doing is, you know, it's silly, some of our veterans were having to drive 4 hours to get their blood drawn, or to get a very basic test done. That doesn't make sense, you know that, it doesn't make sense. So we're starting a pilot program right here in Del Rio that our veterans, and it's because of y'all's healthcare providers that want to do this for veterans, that are willing to do this. So if you got to get blood drawn, you got to do a basic test, you can do it here in Del Rio, and they will make sure those tests get to the VA. So now veterans aren't having to travel long distances. They're not having to wait in a waiting room a long time. That when they have to go to the VA, they can see that doctor that they have to see. It's a big deal, and once we get it working here, we're going to export that to the rest of the state and the country. Y'all are on the leading edge when it comes to providing care for our veterans. And this is something that, look, I had the honor of serving alongside our men and women in the military. I know the sacrifices they've made. I know the sacrifices their families made. And we got to make sure we honor the commitment to those who are willing to pay the most ultimate sacrifices in order to keep us safe. All right? So, national security, that's my background, that's my passion, that's why I ran for office. Del Rio, Texas, plays an instrumental role in national security. Laughlin Air Force Base produces more pilots than any other facility in the United States of America. The support the community provides Laughlin Air Force Base is amazing. It is an example for the rest of the country. But some things were going on, like if it rained more than an inch, the flight line got flooded. Y'all seen the pictures where it looked like the planes were in a bathtub? This has been going on for like 9 years. That's insane. We were able to work through the appropriations process to get the funding to fix that this year. It's a big deal, right? Some good things are going on in Washington, D.C., and it's impacting the community. And the reason that we're able to do that is because the relationship that Laughlin has with the city. Our mayor is here. Mayor Garth, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your leadership for the community. And would you like to say a few words to address your constituents before I continue? Okay. You know, the working relationship is really good. You know, we're working on the Omniside National Recreation Area. There's a dock that's in disrepair. The National Park Service doesn't have the money to deal with this. But we're working with the community, local businesses, we're working with the city, we're working with the county to figure out a way to have a public-private partnership in order to make sure that resource continues to exist and that we have ways to access this wonderful lake. And so, yeah, it's important. There is the county entered into a very unique relationship with Laughlin Air Force Base to provide a charter school on the base. The Secretary of the Air Force has been talking about this and how new and innovative this is. Now, I learned earlier today that one of the biggest barriers to making this happen is being sorted out. Looks like we're on track in order to have this school open next year. Again, county, school district, federal government, Laughlin Air Force Base, working together. And it's been a pleasure working with Laughlin to make sure that some of the rules and the regulations that were restricting them from doing something creative like this, we were able to sort out. It's been great being a partner in that project as well. The reality is this: Washington, D.C. is indeed a circus. But you cannot believe everything you see on television or read in the newspaper, with the exception of the local paper. Things are getting done.
Come on.
Y'all have never probably heard of the SGR fix. We're pretty bad at naming stuff. This should have been the increasing seniors' access to good doctors while shaving $5 trillion off the national debt over 15 years. Because that's what it did. It also funded community health clinics, which are important throughout our entire community. The community health clinics, we're going to get a 75% budget cut. Only Washington, D.C. thinks that's acceptable. We were able to fix that in this Congress. In this partisan atmosphere, we got things done. ESSA. How many of y'all have kids, grandkids, great-grandkids? Raise your hand. Probably everybody in here. If you don't know what the ESSA is, you should. It's the Every Student Succeeds Act. This is a bill that passed the House and the Senate, got signed into law by the President, that basically repeals No Child Left Behind. There is no longer a one-size-fits-all solution to educating our kids. Right? Because guess what? How we educate our kids in Del Rio is different than how we're going to educate them in New York City, or Los Angeles, or Boise, Idaho. Right? And you know who knows best how to educate your kids? Y'all do.
Right.
Your principals do. Your teachers do. Your superintendents do. And y'all need to have the flexibility to do that. Because here's the reality. We have to prepare our kids for jobs that do not exist today. Let's give an example. In Texas last year alone, there were 42,000 computing jobs. That's a job that requires some kind of coding that went unfilled in Texas. 42,000. The average income for that job, $89,000. That's more than twice the average of Texas. Texas only produced 2,100 computer scientists. And even scarier, only 5,000 kids in high school took the AP computer science course. That's a course that if you take it, you get college credit. Of those 5,000 kids, only 24% girls, less than 900 were Latinos or Latinas, and only 120 were African American. Those are terrible numbers. That's like only 17% of the high schools offering that class, right? We gotta make sure that our school district are able to have those kinds of classes in the high schools. You have some coding classes in middle schools. And guess what? The private sector is willing to be a participant in this. They're willing to help train and retrain teachers on how to teach that. They're willing to help provide tools that you need in the classroom in order to do that. Now teachers have the flexibility to do this. Now my heart was warmed, was it last week, Carmen? Here, right over there, at the health fair that went on here in Del Rio. I talked to 50 girls from 7th grade to 2nd grade. And I asked every single one of them, what's your favorite subject? All but 3 said science and math. We got to make sure we continue to encourage them to pursue science, technology, engineering, and math, because guess what? It's a national security issue. And again, now we have the ability to do that because Congress acted. Lifting the ban on exporting crude. It's a big deal. Keep our boys and girls employed. And also, if you want to put Vladimir Putin in a box, who is an adversary, not an ally, the best thing to do is to sell the energy to Eastern Europe. We're able to do that. We did this year. I've gotten 4 bills signed into law. The last time somebody that represented District 23 got a bill signed into law was 2007, and it was the renaming of a post office. I've had 5 other bills pass the House, and some of them have companion legislation in the Senate. The first bill I authored was to help Border Patrol. Very simple bill, page and a half. DHS, in its infinite wisdom, was going to implement a new pay structure where our men and women in Border Patrol were going to get $700 to $1,000 less of pay period. And they get paid every 2 weeks. Only in Washington, D.C. do they think that's okay. We were able to get a page and a half bill to prevent that from happening. Like these are, thank you, these are the simple kinds of legislation that if we have the right people up there fighting, we get done. Yeah. So things are going on, right? One of the reasons I'm out here is to tell you about what's happening in Washington, D.C. The other reason is to learn from y'all. When I'm in high schools, I speak at as many high schools as I can. I tell the kids, I know what I know what I don't know, but what I don't know, I don't know. It's the largest of those 3 categories. So I'm taking pearls of wisdom as well. So I'm going to stop there, answer a couple of questions, and then we're going to stay a little bit if people have private questions they want to ask before we have to get on the road and get to our next 3 stops. Who's first? Yes.
You need to be commended. Those that have not listened, watch the code here. You should take care of
Well, thank you, sir. A couple of weeks ago, I had a conversation with the good director of the FBI. And
Did he get him fired?
he's on a 10-year stretch. Many of us have served in the federal government. When we were in the federal government, if we had an unauthorized server in our basement upon which top secret, special compartmented information was exchanged, we would have been in jail.
Come on.
Right? We would have been in jail. And my fear, and the reason I get upset on this, is that we cannot create a culture in our national security apparatus that says, not protecting secrets is okay. The boys and girls, the men and women, our brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles that train right down the road to prepare to fight to protect those secrets. They deserve our support. My friends that are still in the intelligence services that are collecting that intelligence, they need to make sure, and the person that's giving that information needs to make sure that we're protecting that information. Our national security depends on it. And again, as the only former CIA officer in Congress, I feel like it's my responsibility to articulate that. And one of the reasons that y'all sent me to Washington, D.C. is to deal with issues of national security. So thank you for the kind remarks. And we're going to keep doing it when we have to. Who's next? Yes, sir.
Back in 1994, when Newt Gingrich had the contract with America, the balanced budget amendment, what happened to that?
Well, we've tried to bring up the balanced budget amendment a number of times. I think we've actually passed the House. It stalls in the Senate. It's primarily because, look, you also got to have someone in the White House that will sign that into law. Here's the reality. Our debt is a crisis. Most of our national security senior folks have said this is a national security issue. And there's a couple of ways you deal with the debt. You increase taxes, which nobody's supporting.
Boo.
Boo, exactly. Decrease spending or increase our economy. Right?
There you go.
So we have a tax plan that increases the economy by 9%. That's a gigantic number. And that's not me saying 9%, that's several independent organizations reading the plan and saying what it would do. That's going to help everyone move up the economic ladder. We have to reform our tax code. We got to bring some of that money that's sitting overseas back and put it to use here. Y'all need to keep more of your money and not send it to Washington, D.C. And we also need to restrict our spending. And as a chairman of the subcommittee on IT, I do a lot of IT procurement. IT procurement is not a sexy topic. No one's going to hold a rally for IT procurement. But here's the reality. The federal government spends $80 billion, that's with a B, on IT procurement. And 80% of that is on stuff anybody in this room would say is old and outdated. That's outrageous, right? And part of the reason is the way our processes are set up in the government is that we don't incentivize savings. Many of y'all have heard, if you've been a part of the federal government, if you don't spend it, if you don't use it, you what?
Lose it.
You lose it.
You're not rewarded for saving money.
So you're not being rewarded for saving money. We have a bill called the Move It Act, and it deals with IT procurement. 2 agencies moved into the cloud, saved $2 billion. Are those agencies going to be able to use that money, that $2 billion, to do further modernization, to do other things they need in order to protect our digital infrastructure? No. So our bill says, let's put it in a working capital fund, and you have 3 years to use it. The reality is, projects in the government are so big. DOD is Fortune 1 if it was a business, right? So realizing those savings and using that savings the same calendar year is really hard to do. But these are some of the things. Look, you can't put what I just said in 140 characters in a tweet. But we need people up in Washington, D.C. that understand these concepts, are engaged in the weeds to solve these problems, because we got to fix the process. And we got to have leadership in places that will be willing to go through on this. So these are some of the things that we're doing, and guess what? 23rd District is doing, is y'all are supporting me in these efforts. And we got time for one more. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, and again, you got to buy. We're blocking the lines, so y'all got to buy some positions before we leave. Anybody else?
Right here, sir.
Yes, hit it.
With the, in 2014, we experienced a large number of unaccompanied juveniles and family units, and you're pulling agents out of the field when this happens.
Yeah.
This administration keeps sending the message that the border's wide open. Why aren't we able to detain these people instead of cutting them loose with the notice to appear for a hearing that's 10 years down the road? Why can't we, with our authority as border patrol agents, execute and send them back where they came from?
Look, I agree. Here's the deal, right? You know this. We're actually pretty good at apprehension.
Well, it's not an apprehension when
They're showing up,
Yeah.
because they know that they're not going to be prosecuted, that they're going to be released on their own recognizance. Step 1, enforce the laws that are on the books. There has to be consequences to negative behavior. If there's not consequences, what happens? That behavior continues and multiplies. So it starts with having an attorney general that's willing to enforce the laws that are on the books, right? It starts with providing oversight on these issues. We've been shining a light on this. When Congress actually passes budgets and appropriations, that gives Congress tools to restrict certain activities within these agencies, right? One of those is preventing, if you're not going to enforce the laws, not getting some of your federal grants, right? Because we passed a budget, we were able to do those kinds of things, right? And so you're right, it starts with enforcing the law, because I know you and your colleagues are getting sick and tired of seeing the people that you ultimately apprehend and, go walk free.
I would just like to add to that, Congressman, the pressure needs to be put on Homeland Security. As Border Patrol agents, we're not even allowed to go into jail and yank criminal aliens, put detainers on. We're not even allowed to do that.
Right. Look, there's other structural problems too, right? Border Patrol and ICE doesn't always have the same common operating picture. You're not going after some of the same targets. If you're in San Diego, you add in Coast Guard, right? You know, Coast Guard, HSI, Homeland Security Investigation, CBP, and ICE. We should all be working on the same common picture. You know, one person needs to be in charge. One person needs to direct those operations. Because also, you should have the freedom and flexibility to adjust your tactics, techniques, and procedures as you see fit. Because what you deal with here is very different than Arlington. It's very different from San Diego.
I agree, but just an example. We're told ICE has jurisdiction, let's say Valverde County Jail. ICE has jurisdiction to go into jail. ICE says they don't have the manpower, they don't need the checks. We've got 3 border patrol stations within 40 miles of that jail. We could go in, get those criminal aliens, set a detainer, get them out of the United States, and they're getting released to the community. That's a national security problem.
Absolutely. Mayor.
I just want to thank publicly Congressman Hurd for his help to the city. Since I took office, we've been to Washington twice. He's been extremely helpful with issues dealing with the base, as he mentioned, the runway. There's a couple of other grants, the new entry inspection station that's there. And he was also very instrumental in helping us get closer towards realizing the airline service. As you know, I was at the federal courthouse the other day, and they keep asking me because they're anxious to use, they're going to use the airline service to bring in judges and other probation officers to come work here. And one of the comments was, you know, what's taking so long? And I said it took an act of Congress, and it literally took an act of Congress, and that's we're very thankful to Congressman Hurd. So we're very appreciative. He's been extremely cooperative with the city. I can't say that he can do very much more.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll expect to see you on the tarmac when I get off that flight. So I'm gonna end with this. In a district that's 50-50, you learn something very quickly. That no matter what you do, there's somebody upset. That's okay. I'm tough. I can handle it. I'm more worried for my mother when the nasty ads get ran against me, because she's not going to react as diplomatically as I would. But I learned very quickly. It's very simple. Be honest. Tell people what you're doing and why you're doing it. That's why we've crisscrossed this district dozens of times. That's why we visited every single county. Because my title is representative, and I take that seriously. I don't represent just the big cities. I represent all the cities. And one time, early on in my time in Congress, you know, when I was running, I've been pretty critical of this organization I'm now a member of. And I was supposed to give a tour in Congress, and I had never given a tour of Congress before. And I thought this could be a pretty crummy tour if I don't know where to show people, right? So I called the Capitol Visitor Center, and I said, can you send someone over and give me a quick tour? Just the highlights. And they sent a young lady over, 67 years old, had been doing this for 17 years. An hour goes by, 2 hours goes by, 3.5 hours later, she has me standing tall and my chest is out. She taught me I was one of 20,000 people that have ever served in Congress. That's a freshman class at Texas A&M University at University of Texas. She taught me that I was connected to guys like Sam Houston and Abraham Lincoln. And that I also was part of an organization that for 240 years exported democracy all across the globe. Now, Congress has a long way to go to preparing the trust with the American people. But know this, there's a handful of us up there in Washington, D.C. that are working hard every single day and every single night to earn your trust and to keep your trust. So I just want to end with saying thank you for the opportunity to represent you, and God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
Hurd!